Welcome to another story made by Oracle 1. The Candle Maker's Curse. Episode 1. Wicks of the Heart. In the narrowest street of Brackenrow, where the stones leaned inward like eavesdroppers and the air always smelled faintly of honey and smoke, there was a shop with a single window and no sign. People found it anyway. They always did. They said the candles burned longer than any others. They said the flames were steadier, warmer, almost alive. They said that if you watched one closely enough, you could feel something watching back. Elowyn Greywick never corrected them. She rose before dawn, as she always did, when the city still slept and the fog lay low like an unbroken secret. Her work began in quiet. Hands washed in cold water, sleeves rolled, hair braided tight so it wouldn't fall into the wax. She lit no lamps. The workshop glowed on its own. Rows of candles stood on shelves carved into the stone walls, thick pillars, slender tapers, spirals wound like shells. Their flames burned without melting, each casting a slightly different color of light. Gold, pale blue, ash white, rose. The colors shifted subtly, breathing. Elowyn moved among them, listening. Most people thought candle making was a craft of hands. They were wrong. It was a craft of listening. She paused before a tall ivory candle near the back, its flame trembling faintly. "You're restless," she murmured. The flame flickered twice in response. Elowyn closed her eyes and pressed two fingers to the candle's side. Heat pulsed, not burning, not painful, like a heartbeat through wax. A fisherman, middle-aged, regretful. He had loved the sea more than his children and known it too late. She withdrew her hand gently. "You'll go to the widow on Lowbridge Street," she said. "She still talks to you when she thinks no one hears." The flame steadied. That was how it worked. Each candle held a soul, not trapped, exactly. Not punished. Bound, yes, but willingly, or at least knowingly. People came to Elowyn when they were dying, when they wanted their warmth to remain in the world a little longer. When they wanted to be useful one last time. She never took children, never lovers torn apart, never anyone whose grief still screamed. Only those who were ready. That was the rule. The curse did not care. Elowyn crossed to her work table, where fresh wax cooled in shallow basins. Beeswax for the body, graved tallow for the wick, rendered carefully, reverently. Names were etched into the base of each candle in a script only she could read, letters shaped like memories rather than words. She reached for the final basin. And stopped. The candle there was small. Unremarkable. Pale pink, almost translucent, as though it might disappear if stared at too long. Its flame burned unevenly, brightening and dimming in a slow, erratic rhythm. Elowyn's throat tightened. Not again. She had not placed this candle here. She would have remembered. She remembered every soul she worked with. Every name. Every last breath taken in her shop. Hands clasped around hers as the wax accepted them. Her fingers hovered inches from the flame. "No," she whispered. The candle flickered sharply, as if startled. Elowyn pulled her hand back and pressed it against her chest, where her heart thudded too fast. She did not need to touch the wax to know. This one did not hold a soul she had harvested. It held something else. Hers. She first noticed the change 3 months ago. A tremor in her hands while pouring wax. A candle that smelled faintly of rain, though no rain had fallen. A flame that dimmed whenever she felt lonely, brightened when she remembered her mother's laugh. At first, she told herself it was exhaustion. The curse took its toll. Everyone in the Greywick line knew that. Her grandmother had gone blind at 40. Her mother's joints had stiffened until she could barely hold a spoon. But no one had ever mentioned this. No one had warned her that the curse could turn inward. Elowyn had been 13 when her mother finally told her the truth. They sat at this very table, the shop quiet, the candles lit in morning colors. Her mother's hands were wax-stained, her face lined far beyond her years. "Our family does not make candles," her mother had said. "We make vessels." "For what?" Eowyn had asked. Her mother hesitated. Then she lit a candle with no wick. The flame bloomed anyway. "Souls," her mother said softly. "Borrowed warmth. Borrowed time." Eowyn should have been afraid. Instead, she had leaned closer, fascinated. "Does it hurt them?" "No," her mother said. "Not if we're careful. Not if we follow the rules." "What rules?" Her mother's gaze had sharpened. "Never refuse a willing soul. Never take an unwilling one. And never, never let your own heart enter the wax." Eowyn remembered laughing then, a short, nervous sound. How would that even happen? Her mother hadn't laughed back. Now, staring at the small pink candle pulsing with her emotions, Eowyn understood. The bell above the shop door rang. Eowyn jumped, spinning around too quickly. The candle's flame flared bright, then guttered low. She clenched her fists until her nails bit into her palms. "Just a customer," she whispered to herself. "Just a customer." She smoothed her apron, tucked the small candle behind a row of thicker pillars, and moved to the front of the shop. A woman stood just inside the door, wrapped in a mourning shawl the color of damp ash. Her eyes were red-rimmed but determined. "I was told you could help me," the woman said. Eowyn inclined her head. "If it can be helped, I will." The woman swallowed. "My husband died last week. He was afraid of the dark." Eowyn's chest ached with a familiar, careful empathy. "Was he ready?" The woman nodded. "He asked for you by name." Eowyn closed her eyes briefly. The curse stirred, warm and heavy in her bones. "Come," she said. "Tell me about him." They spoke for nearly an hour. Eowyn listened. To the woman's words, to the spaces between them, to the subtle pull that told her when a soul was near the threshold. When the time came, the woman wept softly as the candle was formed, her husband's warmth settling into the wax like a sigh of relief. When it was done, the flame burned steady and strong. The woman kissed Eowyn's hands. "Thank you," she whispered. "I can feel him." After she left, the shop felt colder. Eowyn turned slowly toward the shelves. The pink candle flickered wildly. Her heart raced. "I didn't do anything," she told it. "I didn't put you there." The flame leaned toward her. Eowyn backed away. "No," she said again, more firmly. "I won't." The curse answered with a pulse of heat that shot through her chest, stealing her breath. Images flashed behind her eyes. Memories not bound to wax, but loose and bleeding. Her childhood in the shop. Her mother's cough. The night she buried her alone, candles lining the grave like silent witnesses. Love, fear, longing, all of it surged toward the candle. Eowyn screamed. She grabbed a metal snuffer and clamped it down over the flame. Darkness. She sagged against the table, gasping, sweat slicking her skin. Slowly, carefully, she lifted the snuffer. The flame relit itself, brighter than before. That night, Eowyn dreamed of melting. She stood in the center of her shop as the walls softened and sagged, wax dripping like tears from the shelves. Her feet sank into the floor, warmth creeping up her legs, her body growing heavy, pliant. "Stop," she tried to say, but her mouth would not open. The small pink candle stood before her, now tall as a person, its flame roaring. "You made me," it whispered in her voice. Eowyn woke with a sob, hands clutching her chest. Her skin was warm, too warm. She lit a lamp and hurried to the mirror. At first, she saw nothing wrong. Then she leaned closer. Her reflection shimmered. Just for a moment. Just enough to see the faint translucence beneath her skin, as though light might pass through her if she stood still long enough. "No," she breathed. She wrapped herself in a shawl and fled the shop, locking the door behind her. The city was quiet, moonlight pooling in the gutters. She walked until her legs ached, until the chill bit deep enough to ground her. When she returned at dawn, the shop was already open. The door stood ajar. Eowyn froze. She stepped inside slowly, heart pounding. The shelves were untouched. The candles burned as they always did. No sign of theft. Except, one space was empty. The small pink candle was gone. On the counter lay a single silver coin, stamped with a noble crest she recognized immediately. House Valric. Eowyn's breath caught in her throat. She had never sold that candle. She had never finished it. And somewhere in the city, someone now held a flame made of her feelings, burning, revealing, alive. The curse stirred hungrily in her veins. And far away, in a high stone manor, a candle was being lit for the first time, its flame whispering her name. For more stories, like and subscribe.